Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Vorm, and today I'm going to be adventuring through Maximum Apocalypse Wasted Wilds by Rock Manor Games. So in the Maximum Apocalypse universe, all the apocalypses happened at the same time. They have three different box sets that are all standalone. The first one that I'm playing here is Maximum Apocalypse Wasted Wilds. There's also the core Maximum Apocalypse box set, and also Maximum Apocalypse Gothic Horrors. They're all standalone products. Each one contains a unique set of characters as well as adventures in themed apocalypse areas that are quite different from each other, giving you lots of variety. The characters that you can play are completely modular and you can carry them over to the other box sets. So if you happen to have more than one of the boxes, you can feel free to mix and match the characters from any of them into any of the missions. So in this adventure I'm going to demonstrate today, we're going to be playing the first mission of the Frozen Wilds campaign that's included in the box. And in this adventure, we're going to take two characters that I've chosen, the chef and the contractor, into a frozen forest mountain wasteland full of dangerous animals, Norse tribes, and other mysterious things that we'll find as we move through the missions. There are 10 missions in this campaign, and then there's a second campaign also included in the box that moves the story setting over to more of a desert wasteland vibe, kind of Mad Max style with raiding marauders and such to deal with. So in today's adventure, we're going to be assembling a bunch of tiles to set up our game board. We'll shuffle up some decks, and we'll go ahead and send our two intrepid survivors through the mission. I'll read the mission info in just a second, but before we get started, I just wanted to mention a couple things. In case I goof and make any errors in the rules or the mechanics, please turn on the Klingon subtitles, and I'll post any corrections to those errors on the Klingon subtitles so you can read and see how I messed up and what the proper response should have been. In addition, if you enjoy the content and you'd like to help support me in doing the things I love and bringing you this kind of content, please consider, helping support the channel through the Patreon or Ko-fi links down below. All right, let's get started. Before we can get started playing our adventure, we have to actually set up our adventuring area. So we're going to assemble a map out of these location tiles. We go ahead and pull over the Maximum Apocalypse mission log. We're going to be going on the Frozen Wilds campaign, and it's going to list all of the different tile types that we need to use. So there's 24 tiles divided between these various areas. So we have 23 here, and then this is our starting home base tile, essentially, the van. So I'm going to randomize these. We're going to set them out in a pattern, and that will represent the game world that we're going to be exploring and trying to accomplish our mission. Now it shows some map examples here. You can assemble the map any way you'd like. You can position the tiles in any kind of configuration. Some configurations will be naturally harder than others if you have like choke points that you have to move through that might end up having bad terrain. So it's one way for the player to actually adjust the difficulty level, and it makes it more interesting having different designs that you can adventure through. So we have other information. We have our flavor text for the mission telling us what we're going to be doing, our mission setup instructions, the objectives, and then what these 2 star tokens actually mean that we're going to put on the board. So let's go ahead and read the mission here. So it says, you've been living outside of Lake City, Colorado for a few years. You go on runs into town for supplies, but things are drying up and you've been picking up robot transmissions on the radio. You're going to have to make your way up the mountains to avoid their patrols. You know you're not alone. Scouts have spotted campfires up in the mountains, so there must be other people out there. Your hope is that you can trade with these mysterious people for some food to get through the winter. Before you can even attempt to make your way into the cold, you're going to need to go hunting for pelts and pick up your food stockpile. So the mission setup gives us some instructions. I'm not going to go through those right now. And then we have mission objectives. These I do want to list. So our objectives are to kill 2 bears for their pelts, store 1 food per player, and that's 1 food card per player, and a total of 3 fuel in the van. Open the gate, which is going to be located at the star B symbol that we're going to place on the map board. and then return all players to the van when all other objectives have been completed. So 3 primary goals: kill 2 bears, gather food and fuel, open the locked gate, and then return to the van once we've completed all that. So let's go ahead and set that aside. And what we have out here are the 2-star symbols. We're going to assemble our map board first, and then we're going to place these 2 in particular locations. So let's just go ahead and scramble these up a bit more, and then we'll go ahead and get these laid out. Okay. I'm just going to go for a basic square pattern just to keep the video compact. So let's just go ahead and add some tiles in here. Didn't take too long to set this up. One here. Move this over slightly. All right. So once we have this assembled, I'll just do a quick cut on some of the decks. I've pre-shuffled them, but we'll cut them to make sure we get some random there. Oops. One more row needed. Okay, I think we just about got it. Good enough. All right, so we have our world set up. Now, the other game elements you see on the table, we have a deck of scavenge cards. We have a clock tile up here. It's going to keep track of our time. We have an exposure deck. Let's go ahead and just mix this up a tiny bit while we're talking about it. This is going to give us different weather effects on our characters. I have a deck of cards here that replaces dice rolling for monster spawning. It's just going to have numbers between 2 and 12, same as if I rolled 2 dice. The deck gives us a few other advantages in that it limits the number of wild random swings that are possible, like rolling 10 sevens in a row on dice versus there not being 10 sevens in this deck. So it evens out some of the wild randomizations. In addition, there are additional cards in the box that you can bring in, add to this deck to give additional effects, not just numbers, but it might have an ambush or it might have a benefit or a negative that would apply to the gameplay separate from just using a number to determine monster spawning. So it's a good way of giving the player some agency in picking their own difficulty level. This is our threat deck. This is assembled by specific cards that the mission will indicate that you're supposed to use. As you move through the missions, they'll indicate to bring in additional cards from the box set for new threats that we're going to face as we advance through the missions. So, we'll give that a shuffle. The scavenge decks over here divided into 3 colored categories. Red is for fuel. And it's not just fuel. There is crossover between the different decks, but we have fuel, food, and gear. And you will find gear in the other piles, you will find fuel in the other piles, but their main focus is fuel, food, and gear. And as we travel through our little adventure here, the different locations are going to have symbols indicating what kind of resources we can find in a particular square. And it'll just instruct us that we can scavenge that resource to try to acquire those types of items. So, we are good to go there. Next up, we've got our map board set up. These are our standees for our characters, the chef and the contractor. We have to place these 2-star tiles now. The first rule is this has to be placed at least 2 away from our start position. I'm going to go ahead and put it here, right in the middle. This represents a cache of supplies that we had previously buried or hidden in this location. So one of our goals is to go to that location, use an action to dig up or find our supplies, and it lets us draw 4 cards from the food deck. That's optional. We don't have to do that, but it would be very helpful since getting food is one of our mission goals. And then finally, we have this B indicator. We're going to put this in the very bottom corner. This is the locked gate that we have to activate to unlock in order for us to clear the road path for our van to leave the area. So Our mission goals are kill 2 bears, we'll find bears as we travel, gather up 2 food, 1 per character, and it's food cards, not just amount of food on a card. And then also get this gate unlocked, so we're going to have to travel all the way here, use an action to unlock the gate, and then get back to the van. And that's our adventuring board. So we have a character card. We are the chef. We have 26 starting hit points, which are shown on our dial here. We have a sneak value of 7, which I'll explain later. And we have a special ability, Cook Mid-Range. Action, discard a food card to reduce hunger of all players by the amount on that card. So he can basically multiply food usage because he will be able to apply that amount of food or hunger reduction to all the characters that we have in range. We have a deck of cards. The cards that are in these decks are completely unique to that character. The characters play very differently from each other. They have totally different focuses, abilities, powers, etc. So it's a lot of fun because of the disparity between the types of characters and what their abilities are. And finding good combos to match them up between characters is going to be interesting. We have our hit point dials. We have a die on top of the cards. This is their hunger level. So we start at level 1, and each turn we're going to get 1 point hungrier. We're going to have to eat food to bring those back down again. There are consequences to being too hungry. All right. Off to the side of the board here, I have a knick-knack tray with various elements I'll bring into play as needed. We have monster token indicators when they spawn where a player is not standing. We have damage indicators, poison, ammo for our gear, fuel tokens, barricades for the contractor, and tribe tokens that we won't be using at this time. I will point out that I am appropriating some of the space on this clock board because the first mission does not use the tribes. They're introduced in the second mission. So this and this normally wouldn't be on this board. They'd be separate elements elsewhere in our tableau. But I need space because there's a lot to show here, so we've placed those there. This die here I'm using as my action point indicator. During their turns, each character is going to be able to take 4 actions, and I'll just count them down on that die. I put it there as a special reminder to me to make sure I do the monster activation phase each turn, that I don't dive into the character's actions, because I get distracted wanting to do cool things, and I forget to do the monster stuff. So that's all that is. All right, that is everything. Up here we have a dice tray with a couple of dice. There's only, I think, one circumstance where I'll be rolling these. That's for sneak attempts, but we'll have that handy and in range for me to grab. All right, I think we are all set. So we have our characters, we have our mission objectives, we've set out our map board. You guys know what all this stuff is. Let's begin our adventure. Before we begin turn 1, there's 2 last things we need to do. Let's go ahead and draw 4 cards for each of our characters. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll just set those aside for the moment. And 1, 2, 3, 4. That's our starting hand of cards that we can play with. I'm going to flip those over. And then we also have to pick a threat for each of our characters. So, threat for the chef is a wolf. And our threat for the contractor, another wolf. A wolf pack has arrived. So let's take a look at the wolves real quick. So the wolf has 7 hit points, 3 attack, so it does 3 damage on its attack. And the text down here says, deal +2 damage for every other wolf currently in play. More wolves is bad. So, all right, so we've got our initial threats ready to go. We have our starting hand of cards for each character, and we are now ready to start turn 1. I'm going to begin play with the chef, and then we'll run through his entire turn, switch over to the contractor, and then move back and forth through the game. So I would like to show at this time the quick reference on the back of the Learn to Play guide. The quick reference is just going to go through the turn sequence really quickly. I'm not going to go through all the rules and information on it. I just want you to know kind of the flow of the turns and what I'll be doing. So at the top, we're going to spawn monsters by selecting a card from that deck. We're going to advance time, depending on what we pull from the deck. A 7 advances time faster than any other result. We're going to draw a card from our survivor's deck into their hand. Then we're going to have the option to take 4 actions. Many of these can be repeated. Only the one that is scavenging from a tile is limited to once per turn. Otherwise, we can repeatedly do the other actions in any order that we'd like, up to 4 total actions. There are a couple of free actions that we also have access to. There is a monster activation phase after that. Basically, that's when the monsters are going to try to attack us and do damage. Then there is hunger and other status effects. We're going to increase the hunger for our characters when we hit that stage. And if they have any status effects like poison or any weather effects like frost nip, then they would activate at that time. And then finally, we're going to check to see if we have achieved the victory conditions. And that is a full turn. Each character will have that full turn option, and then it'll pass to the next character, and we just go back and forth. The other thing I'll note is the ranges information here. So a lot of the cards are going to have a range listed. Short range, that symbol indicates that only eligible targets are in the space with the active character. So only the space he's standing in. A mid-range ability is going to have that space plus every adjacent space. So above, below, to the left, and to the right. There's no diagonals allowed. And then finally, long range. That allows the activation to occur, or the effect to occur, up to 2 tiles away. So either 1 or 2 orthogonal tiles away. But it does not include the tile that the character is currently standing in. So you can't use it in your own space, but you can use it up to 2 tiles away. Okay, I think that's everything we need to know there. Let's go ahead and begin the turn. So first thing we're going to do is monster activation. Let's go ahead and pull our first card from the deck. We got a 4. So a 4 is good for us. A 4 essentially has no effect. What we're doing here is we're comparing that symbol and number to the corner of all the revealed tiles. Any tile that matches, we would spawn a monster into. So we have no 4s currently on the board. That's going to have no effect. Next, we do moving the time dial. So because we did not roll a 7, we only move it 1 space. All results other than 7 is 1 space. If we do roll a 7, and there are no tiles, no terrain tiles with 7 in the corner, that means we're going to move this time indicator 4 spaces instead of 1. So this indicator is got several different symbols at each of the cardinal points. So we've got an umbrella at the top. That's the exposure symbol. And anytime we meet or pass that, our characters are going to have to pull a card from the exposure deck if they're not in a protected location, an indoor location. And the indoor location is this little house symbol at the bottom of the card. Any location that has that house symbol is an indoor location. They have cover. They're safe from weather effects. But anytime the dial touches or passes that, we have that to check for. The other symbols we're not actually going to use in this first mission. They're going to come into play in later missions. But we start here, and because we rolled a 4, we advance 1 space. All right, so we've done monster activation. We've advanced time. Next up, we get to go ahead and draw a card. So the card we're going to draw is a knife. So this is the mainstay of the chef deck. Let's go ahead and look through the cards we've got access to. 3 knives! So many knives. All right, so a quick card breakdown. I'm not going to explain all the cards and all the details, but the main symbology I want to kind of go through. So if you see a lightning bolt symbol, that's an instant action. I can do that, and basically the card will go away, and it's an instant action. So this is the ration. I can search the scavenge discard pile for a food card of my choice and add it to my hand. So that's great for recovering food cards that have been used. So these are the scavenge decks. There will be a scavenge discard pile I'll put up on top here. All the cards that we draw and use will go into a singular pile. And if we have a food card in there, I could use this to retrieve that food card back up into my hand. The next one, the symbol here is a backpack symbol. Each character is normally allowed a maximum of 4 points of gear. So you can see here the frying pan takes up 2 points versus the knife taking 1 point. So there are exceptions to this 4 maximum rule that we'll discover over here with the contractor, and with a few items we might find. There are ways to increase your allotment. But normally, 4 gear cards maximum in play on the table. You're also only allowed to have 1 copy of any particular gear card in play, with fuel being the only exception. So we have 3 knives. This is good and bad. I want a knife. I don't know that I need 3 knives all at once, because now I don't have a lot of diversity in my starting hand. But this is the primary way that the chef is able to deal damage to enemies. So a knife here, 1 spot, short range, so I can only attack in the tile I'm in. And if I activate it as an action, I can deal 3 damage to a target. Now I have 4 actions. I could repeatedly use the knife. If I used all 4 of my actions, I could do 12 damage total. And then we have the frying pan, short range only as well, passive. So once I play it down, I would get this option every time. Every time you are dealt short range damage, your attacker suffers 3 damage. So if somebody's in the tile with me, short range, they attack me, I get to smack them back with a frying pan for 3 damage. All right, so that's the starting hand for our chef. Let's go ahead and plot out our actions. We've got 4 actions total. We definitely want to get the knife down, so let's go ahead and move this to a 3. We got a knife in play now. So I unfortunately can't kill a wolf easily in in 2 attacks. We only do 3 damage, and we don't have enough to kill the wolf unless I use all 3 actions. So I could just stab, stab, stab with the knife that I now have in play. That would do all 4 of my actions, and the wolf that's on me would get killed. Then I would leave the contractor to deal his own damage. So the monsters are going to activate at the end of each active character's turn, and only the monsters that are attached to them will activate. So on his turn, only this wolf is going to activate. So if I can kill this on my turn, and he can kill that on his turn, then the wolves will never actually get an action. So, how do we want to do this? Is it more important to kill the wolves or to get moving on our run, our mission? Now, monsters, once they are revealed, are attached to the character. So they're going to travel with us if we just try to leave and move around. So, given that they're wolves and they're stronger when there's multiples, and we could draw additional wolves to make things worse and worse, we probably really need to clear the wolves and get some gear on the board and get some cards in our hand and then get moving. So, I think what I will do, because we're playing co-op, let's look at the contractor's hand real quick, because this might influence my decision. Occasionally, I might choose, for example, to use my knife to hit that wolf, so that in combination, I know the contractor is going to get to go before the wolf. So if I can weaken the wolf and let the contractor kill it with a lesser array of necessary ammo or cards, it could be helpful, just depending on the arrangement of the monsters and what the characters have. So let's go ahead and examine the cards the contractor's got. The contractor has a hard hat gear card for 1 cost in gear. Passive, reduce all incoming damage by 2. So that's a good one. It is protection like armor. It only reduces things like monster attack damage. You cannot use this damage reduction for things like hunger damage or for effect damage like the frost nip. Then we have the nail gun. When the nail gun is equipped, it comes with 5 ammo. It's a short-range weapon, and as its action, it'll deal 3 damage to a target and stun it, which would keep it from activating during its turn to attack us. So pretty good base weapon, 5 shots until you can get it reloaded via gear in the scavenge deck. Then we have the big saw launcher. So the saw launcher is a whopping 3 gear slots to use, to equip. Comes with 3 shots or 3 ammo, up to a mid-range, so the tile that the user's in plus every adjacent tile. As an action, it can deal 10 damage to a target, but it also increases your hunger by 1. Hungry work, chopping up wolves with saws. And finally, he has Morning Joe, his cup of coffee. It'll reduce his hunger by 2 and then gain an action. So you have to use an action to consume this. You gain the action back again, so it's like a free play card, and it reduces your hunger by 2 levels. So he's got the ability between these to kill his own wolf, but it again would take him 3 of his 5 nails in his nail gun to kill the wolf, or he'd have to use the saw launcher and 1 of the 3 shots there to kill it and increase his hunger. But he's got the ability to get things done. So and he'll get one extra card. I think I'm going to have... See, the big choice here is if I'm going to kill this wolf, I have to use all of my actions to get it done with the cards I currently have available. One of the actions I could perform, and let's go ahead and look at the actions list real quick. I can move to another tile. I can draw a card from my deck. I can play a card from my hand. I can perform an action on a card or tile in play. I can scavenge the tile I'm in. And then I can also parlay, trade, or reinforce with a tribe. But we don't have tribes in this mission, so the last one we can't do. The scavenge is once per tile. The other actions I can do as many times as I would like each. So I could move 4 times. I could draw 4 cards up into my hand. My choice how I want to spend my 4 actions. So, in this circumstance, do we just stab, stab, stab and get rid of our own wolf and let him deal with his? Do we draw a card and hope that it's going to let me kill the wolf with less impact on my actions? We could also put the frying pan into play and then just take the hit from the wolf. The problem being that the wolf that attacks me is going to hit for 5, so that's a little more than I would like to take with only 26 starting hit points. I think... Yeah, the frying pan's really the only option other than drawing cards. I think we're going to take the easy way out. Let's go ahead and just stab, 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 do 9 points of damage, and kill our wolf. I'm going to go ahead and reset the die to 4, put it up here to remind me to do that phase. Discard the wolf up there. And the chef is done. So we do go ahead and move through the other parts of the round. We do want to, excuse me. We've done spawn, we've done advanced time, drew a card, did our actions. I have no free actions I want to do, which include things like discarding 2 cards from our hand to draw a new card, trading cards, scavenge cards with another player on the tile with us, or delivering mission items. So we don't have any of that to do, so let's go ahead and move on to monster activation. There's no monster attached to me anymore, so there will be no monster activation. And then finally, we do hunger and other status effects. So we are going to take 1 point of hunger. That's normal. It increases by 1. If it gets to 6, we flip our card over, lose access to our ability, and we start taking damage. And the longer we are hungry, the worse the damage is going to get, and eventually it will kill us unless we eat something. All right, so this chef has completed his turn. Now let's go ahead and roll back over to the contractor. So, start of the round, we're going to go ahead and do our monster activation, or our monster spawning, that is. We got a 3, so 3 doesn't match any revealed tiles, so no effect there. We advance time by 1. Draw a new card for the contractor, and he got the tackle ability. So tackle, an instant action, long range, so he cannot do it into the tile he's currently in, has to be 1 to 2 tiles away. Stun a target and move to the tile that the target occupies. Draw a card and suffer 3 damage. So he can stun tackle a target, so he gets a free move essentially up to 2 tiles away to stun a revealed monster. So we can't do tokens, and you'll see what I mean by that in a short bit. He moves to that space, stuns the enemy, and he gets to draw a new card, but he also suffers 3 damage. So pretty fun card. There's a lot of interesting things you can do with that. All right, so let's go ahead and pick what he's going to do. We have our card. We need to decide on our 4 actions. So we have 1 wolf. We can't tackle him. There's nothing else revealed, so that card is not going to be useful. Not ready to use my Morning Joe, so it really comes down to what do we want to do here. We have 4 slots available to us. We have 5 points in cards. A saw launcher and 1 shot would kill the wolf, to make it simple. But the nail gun is pretty useful. It would just take a lot of shots to get rid of this thing, but we could just deal the damage and stun it, and then not have to worry about it till next round. So I think I might go with these 2 instead of the saw launcher initially. We'll save that for larger prey later. So yeah, let's do this. So I'm going to go ahead and play the hard hat. That moves our actions down to 3. I'm going to play the nail gun down to 2. We're going to fire the nail gun at the wolf, so we do need to go grab some ammo tokens. All right, so we've got 5 ammo tokens. We're going to use one of the available ammo. Short range, deal 3 damage to a target and stun it. So we'll put 3 points of damage on the wolf. We'll stun it. We'll just kind of tilt it to the side to show that it's been stunned. All right, we have 2 actions remaining. No, we have 1 action remaining. So we played a card, attack the wolf. 1 action left. Let's draw a card. We'll go ahead and draw a card up into our hand. We got the flamethrower. So the flamethrower has 2 fuel when you first play it down, 2 slots in order to equip it. Mid-range action. Choose a tile in range. Deal 6 damage to all monsters and 3 damage to all players on that tile. Cool. We'll see if we can put that to use. All right, and that uses up our last action. I'll go ahead and put that up there. I have no free actions that I want to do. Monster activation. The monster has been stunned. We'll go ahead and unstun it as its only action. And we go to hunger and other status effects. So we go ahead and increase hunger to 2 for the contractor. Check for victory. We have not achieved victory. And the first turn is over. Okay, turn 2. We start with spawn monsters. We got 5. No effect on a 5. Advance time by 1. So we've only got 3 positions left before we hit the first exposure location. So we want to be careful that we're covered in an indoor location if possible. We still have a wolf active over here on the contractor's side. He's only taken 3 hits. We need to do 4 more, and we don't have a convenient 4 damage ability. I'd either have to hit twice with the knife or, do something with the contractor's abilities again. But we've done activation. We've advanced time. We'll draw another card. We drew Herbs and Spices. So it's an instant action ability. And mid-range, choose a player, including yourself, remove all status effect from them, or reduce their hunger by 2. So we can either feed somebody, or we can cure them. So Frost Nip or the other status effects that we're going to deal with, the cold effects primarily in this campaign, or food. So it's a good alternative option to go along with our ration. It's one of the cards that the chef is kind of good at. He's mostly, I would consider him a support character in most games of this type. He does have some cool combat abilities in his deck, but I think his big focus is on keeping the group going. All right, so we've gone ahead and drawn our card. We have 4 actions, so there's no monsters attached to us. We could continue moving. We could help the contractor deal with the 1 wolf that's still in play. We could get more cards into play. So the herbs, the ration, and the knives I don't need right now. Frying pan is the only thing we might want to put down. But I think we need to get exploring. Let's leave the wolf for the contractor to deal with or not. So let's go ahead and move to the next tile. So it's really, really important that we travel as quickly as possible, because the more time that passes, the more monsters are going to spawn, harder things are going to get. So we can't dilly-dally. All right, so I'm going to spend my first action to move over to that next tile right here. So let's go ahead and reveal it. We got the mountains. Okay. So for the mountains, we have now got a new tile number that can activate via the numbers. So 4s and 8s are now going to spawn monsters. So we'll move our chef standee over to that position. It notes here, enter, draw a card. So we get to draw a card from our deck up into our hand, and that's the only other effect. So it's a fairly neutral location. We get a card, but notice it is not protected from the elements. It's not an inside location, so if we have a weather effect, we're going to get hit by it. We'll go ahead and draw the card. And throw knife. Oh, I like this one. This is actually good. This will help us right now. So throw knife, instant action, mid-range. If you have a knife equipped, which we do, discard it to deal 6 damage to a target. If this kills the target, return the knife to your hand. Very, very nice. Very handy, especially given that we have multiple knives that we can draw from when needed. So we've done 1 action to move over. We drew a card. I'm going to go ahead and activate this throw knife ability. So we'll go ahead and put that down. I'm going to deal 6 damage with my equipped knife. We're going to toss it into the heart of this wolf. It is a mid-range, so I'm allowed to go one space in any direction with that action. So I'm going to toss it over and kill the wolf. So the wolf is gone. That frees up the contractor to do all his stuff. And because we killed the target, I get to pick the knife back up into my hand. All right, so that takes us down to 2 actions remaining. 1 to move, 1 to attack. I don't like moving into a new tile on my last action, so we're at the point where I either keep traveling or I get a knife back down again on the table. I think I'm going to keep traveling. Let's unlock some tiles. Now that we've got the contractor freed up, he can move with us or move back to equal our position and then push forward. So let's go ahead and use our 3rd action to move forward again. So we'll have 1 action remaining. This time we got a vault. That can be pretty good early game depending on the rest of the map layout, and I'll explain why in a moment. All right, so now we have 3 numbers though, and they're pretty common. The 6s and the 8s, they're the 2 of the most common numbers. 7, of course, being the most common that we might draw. But 6s and 8s are going to come up fairly often, so we're going to hope there's a card in the contractor's deck that lets us prevent monster spawning. So I'm hoping we see that soon because I'd love to do that on these 2 tiles. Because what's going to happen is as we travel, it's very likely that monsters are going to spawn and build up on these early tiles. And when we try to come back after activating the gate, we don't want to come back to just herds of monsters that we have to wade through. All right, the other thing to note here is we have a symbol. So this is the symbol for the scavenging decks. So it's color-coded. Anytime you see one of these color-coded symbols, that means that you could spend an action scavenging and you would draw from the appropriate colored deck. If there are multiple symbols, so if I had a green and a red, for example, it's an either or. You choose one to scavenge from. And you are limited to scavenging once per turn. The exception to that would be some tiles you enter tell you can scavenge. That's a free scavenging action. You still can do your normal character's allotment of 1 scavenge in addition. All right, and then finally, it is an indoor location, so it is protecting us from frost nip or other weather effects. And it has an action, move to another revealed vault tile. So there is a second vault somewhere out on this map. One of these other tiles is a second vault. This basically acts as a teleporter between the 2 locations. So we're going to hope that's the vault. That'd be awesome. Probably won't be. I mean, 1 out of 24 chances. Well, less than that now because 2 of them, you know what I mean. Chances are low that it's over here. But if it's one of these 4, I'd be pretty happy because that would speed up our travel time quite a bit. All right. So that leaves us with 1 action remaining. And I think he's just going to go ahead and do the scavenge action. So let's go ahead and scavenge this tile for a green card. We got empty-handed. We got the nothing card. So no effect, basically. And we are out of actions. Put that back up here to remind me to do that phase. All right, so we do have a limit of 10 cards for our hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're well under our limit. Go ahead and set that over there. And we move on. So I don't have any free actions I'm going to do. There are no monsters attached to me to activate. We're going to do hunger and other status effects. So we are going to move our hunger up by 1. And we're going to check for victory. Obviously, we have not achieved victory, and I am done. Go ahead and move on to the contractor. So contractor, as his first 2 actions, is just go. Oh, sorry. See, here I go. This is why I put this die up here. I get all excited about doing my stuff, and I forget the monster stuff. All right, start. Let's go ahead and do our drawing, because now we might get something fun going on. An 11. So we have no matching 11s on the table. We advance time by 1. Now we get our turn. So we're going to do 2 actions just to bring him up equal to the chef. So 1, 2. He also has the option to scavenge on the food deck, but I think it's more important we press on because we have 4 green cards. We're going to get to draw if we go here and activate this. So I'm going to use my 3rd action to move to this space. We're going to hope it's a friendly location, and then I can use my final action to pull the 4 cards from our previous buried supply cache. So let's see what we got. We got the ice cliffs. Not exactly friendly. What a hostile place to put our cache of supplies. Okay, so we are now in the ice cliffs. Notice that both of these have the number 6 as a spawn number. Test. On success, reduce your hunger by 1. I assume that's from some kind of hunting trip, like, I don't know. I'm not sure what would be in the ice cliffs, but when we do the test, we can reduce our hunger by 1, or if we fail, we draw an exposure card. So the problem here is the test that we do is against his sneak value. So the sneak value is the number you have to roll equal to or below in order to pass. So he's terrible at sneaking. I'd have to roll a 5 or less in order for him to pass this. So he's probably going to end up with an exposure card. So let's go ahead and make the roll. We got a 5. We passed. Amazing. All right, so we get to reduce our hunger by 1. I assume he snuck up on some kind of poor innocent creature in the ice cliffs there and was able to get a free lunch. All right, so we have passed the test. It's got a 6 spawn number, and we still have an action remaining. So we are going to do what I said. We're going to use our final action. Put that back up there, and we're going to go ahead and search and uncover our spawn or our cache of supplies. So that means we draw 4 cards from the food deck. He currently has 4 cards, so we'll draw up to 8. First card is an antidote. So it's an instant action, short range, cure all status effects of a target. Number 2, food. Ooh, the good food. So this one is reduce a player's hunger by 4. The short range, so you can use this for each other as long as you're within the range, meaning if we were on the same tile, I could play this to reduce the chef's hunger. I'm probably going to hand this to the chef because his special ability is to discard a food card to reduce hunger of all players by the amount on that card. So as long as we're within one space of each other, he could use this and benefit both characters, not just one character. So we absolutely need to get this handed off over to the cook. All right, so doing good so far. Card number 3, more food. This time a little less, reduce hunger by 2, but we need 2 cards in order to escape. So we have to take 2 cards back, not use them for our characters, and we have to store them in the van. So this probably will be one of our food storage cards. We might be able to get away with using this one as well. And then our final card, we get more food, abundant food this time. Short range, reduce each player's hunger in range by 2. That would be more exciting if we didn't have the chef as one of our 2 characters. So if we were running some other combo, this would be cooler because it's kind of like a minimal version of the chef's power. But with him along, the ability to do both is somewhat wasted because of his normal ability. All right, but that's great. So that pretty much clears our food requirements. If we just do this one and we can continue moving at a good pace, we might not need another batch of food, and we can use these 2 cards as our mission objectives. But we're definitely going to need to hand some of this stuff off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we're up to 8. All right, that was his final action. So he is done. He's sitting here in the ice cliffs. This is bad because if we get a 7, it's going to advance the clock. He's absolutely going to get an exposure because there's no indoor safe area here. But that's fine. So let's go ahead and finish out the turn. I got no free actions I'm going to be doing. There are no monsters to activate. Hunger does affect, so we do increment our hunger back up 1. No status effects, no victory. And that completes turn 2. And turn 3. So back over to the chef, starting with monster activation. Okay, we got lots of numbers now. So we don't want a 7. We don't want a 6, a 4, or an 8. We're going to get one of them. We absolutely going to get one of them. We got a 5. We managed to hit the middle. We didn't get one. Awesome. That's pretty lucky for us. So no matching numbers, no monster activations. We advance time 1 notch, so we're still 1 away. That gives him the opportunity to get to cover before we have the exposure effects fire off. And let's go ahead and draw a card for our chef. Next card we got, another frying pan. I don't need all this gear. I need the other cards. Maybe we'll discard. Oh man, I hate discarding knives, but I guess I could discard like a knife and a frying pan as one of my free actions to draw a card. I'm going to do that. Let's do a free action. I'm going to discard a frying pan and a knife. I don't need this many duplicates. So we'll toss those aside to draw one more card. Throw knife. That's fine. I need as many of those as I can draw. I'm okay with that one. All right, so we'll toss that back there. That gives us that option we had before where we can deal 6 damage, and if it kills the target, we pull the knife back up into our hand. All right, so given that, nothing I want to do immediately. We'll have opportunities should we encounter anything as we travel to get weapons in play. The danger is if we hit an area where we get ambushed and a monster appears and I don't have enough actions to deal with it before the end of the turn, then we end up getting hit. But we got to keep pressing on. We got to keep moving. So action number 1, let's go ahead and move down to the tile here. We do have to make the test, so we're going to roll. He's got a 7 sneak, so he's got a better number than the contractor does. We rolled an 8, though, so we failed. So we have to draw an exposure card. All right, so yeah, this is not a good location for us to have to travel through. But to go around it, we have to expose ourselves to even more tiles. So it's either take the negatives or it's, take chances and more time. So the exposure cards, I should explain. When you first draw an exposure, your first exposure card for a character, it's the top-up version, which is Frostnip. Everything in that deck, the top of the card is this Frostnip card. At the end of my phase, when we get to the hunger and status effect phase, if this is still on me, I take 2 damage. Now, the back sides of these cards are different. There's a variety of negative effects that are going to apply. So once you have a Frostnip card, if you are told to draw any additional effects, you flip it to the reverse side, and all of the effects will actually hit you at the same time. So it's cumulative. You don't want to get more. So we'll just keep this over here next to our hit point dial for now as a reminder. So that was our movement into that space. Next, which direction do we go? Let's zigzag. Let's go this direction next. So I'm going to spend my second action moving again. So we're at 2 actions remaining. We're going to explore this tile. We got the farm. All right, a new number has been added to our spawn monster list. So number 10 is now going to spawn monsters. It is a green scavengeable deck. On reveal, immediately resolve a free scavenge action. So we revealed the tile. And we can do a free scavenge action. This is the one I talked about earlier that's not counting the scavenge we can do with the character's actions. So we get a free green card. Actually, I wanted to do trading with them while we were in the same space. We can wait a turn. So I've already revealed and moved. So yeah, let's go ahead and grab our card. Another food card. This is the big one. I didn't even realize there was a 5 in here. All right, our food is covered. I mean, way covered. So, food card, that's awesome. Okay, that's our free one. So, we moved, we did the reveal. I'm not feeling the need to draw anything else from the food deck. I think we're done with the green deck. So, I am not going to search this. 2 actions left. Let's go ahead and let's go here. I think we'll take this path. That way, I minimize my having to go around this space on the return trip. If for some reason things work out in a way that I really dread going into this space, we only have to uncover 1 new tile to continue. So, next action, leaving us with 1 remaining. We found the rail yard. Another 10. Going to be rough if we get into this area and then draw 10s and spawn monsters behind us on this path. So notice this one has 2 different scavenge colors. We can do green or red. You have to pick one or the other for your scavenge action. Got the 10 spawn monster. On reveal, resolve a free scavenge. And if you end your turn here, draw a monster. So we moved into that space. I've got 1 remaining. I'm probably going to use the last one to push forward to this space, even though it's dangerous to do so. I'd rather not draw a monster. So these conditions only occur if the character is in the tile. So what I mean by that is as long as I leave, My character will not end in this tile, so this will not activate. Empty tiles don't activate their abilities. So let's get our free scavenge action. We're going to scavenge red because I don't think we need green anymore. So we're going to scavenge the red deck for spare parts, short range, retrieve a card from your discard pile. Nice. That's actually really good for any of the characters. So we could pull back our frying pan, a knife, our throw knife. That's one of our main ways of dealing damage. So that'll give us some good options. I won't be as fearful of discarding or using cards while we have spare parts in play. Or I can hand it off to the contractor. He might have even better medley of options. Okay, so we still have our one action to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards in our hand. I'm not going to make any decisions based off of that. I don't want to draw a monster and end my turn here, and we need to explore down to this tile. So I'm going to go ahead and take the risk. I'm going to use my last action to move again. Go ahead and move that up there to track it. And the last tile we see is the police station. Also a pretty friendly tile for us. So it's another 8. So we've got 2 8s now, 2 10s, 2 6s, and the 4. It's, excuse me, it's a blue scavengeable tile. It's an indoor tile, so I am going to get the icon or the exposure effect here this next turn, so he's going to get hit by the exposure. And on reveal, immediately resolve a free scavenge action. So let's go ahead and do our free scavenge action for blue this time. This is the gear deck. More food. Short range, hunger by 3. Okay. So much food. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Up to 9 cards now. And we're done. So it was a pretty safe location for us. That's good. So we've transferred the die up there to remind me. Character is done with his normal actions. Free actions. I'm not... Oops. Wrong character here. This card moved over there. I'm not going to trade. I can't do any of the other things, so there's no monsters currently on our character. Hunger and status effects. Yes, we have 4 hunger now on the character, and we do have a status effect that I have not gotten rid of, so we're going to lose 2 hit points, bringing us down to 24. And check for victory. Not quite yet, but we're making progress. Okay, that is the end of the return for the chef. Let's go ahead and move over to the contractor. He's got a lot of catching up to do. That chef is traveling. So, on the end of his turn, or the beginning of his turn, we're going to have the exposure effects. So, there's nothing I can do. So we got to do the monster activation. So let's pull that over to here. A lot of numbers in play. The number 5 again. So we've gotten really lucky with these monster cards. Nothing is spawning behind us so far. So it does tick up 1. So we have advanced time. Now we have to resolve any exposure. The chef is in a safe location. He's in an indoors location. No effect for the chef. Unfortunately, the contractor hanging out at the ice cliffs is going to get an exposure card. So he gets the frost nip card here. Okay, and that's the advanced time. Now we're going to draw a card from our survivor deck. We got the tackle card again. Haven't had an opportunity to use it yet. All right, so let's do our 4 actions. We've got to catch up. There's just nothing, no way around it. So 1, 2, 3. I think I'm going to hold them both at this location, and we'll spend next round trying to get to this, activating the gate to unlock it, and then possibly move back up into this hopefully safe position. We've got no cover, no cover, no cover. So we want to clear this and or go this way as quickly as possible. So Yeah, so 3 actions to get to there. 1 action remaining. I think. So many cards in their hands. I can't even trade really without going over limits. I think what we'll do, I think I'll do Antidote on myself to remove the Frostnip effect as my final action. So let's go ahead and discard this up into the Scavenge deck pile. That's our final action. Removes the Frostnip effect. Free actions. I want to hand off the Reduce Hunger 4 to the chef. So we'll hand that over to him. And that's it. Monster activation, still no monsters attached to us. Hunger and other status effects as hunger goes up. He has no status effects remaining because we cleared it. We're all done. Check for victory. No victory yet. That's the end of the turn.